Sox in the basement.
I'm wearing White Sox stuff. If you're on the YouTube channel right now, I'm wearing White Sox stuff. If you're watching on the Facebook feed, I'm wearing White Sox stuff. Supposedly this has become a thing for some people. Not everybody. I think most people who listen to Sox in the Basement or view it on YouTube are rational human beings. But for some reason over the last couple of weeks, we're getting comments like, why don't you wear any White Sox stuff? As if like wearing my shirt, like here, if you're on the YouTube channel, I got it on. I got a Sox in the Basement shirt too. I know it's like the thing that most podcasts do. They wear their gear because they want you to buy it. We don't sell gear. But like, I mean, like, I don't understand why I got to dress up. Maybe it's the radio guy in me. Like I before we started putting cameras in the studio, folks, sometimes I did this show in my boxers and my Dago tee. Like that's, and I can say that word because I'm Italian, so don't write me anything. But like
it's true,
right? I mean, like that's the thing. Like that's how we do shows. Like Ed would be like on camera and we could see each other if he wasn't there, and I'd be like, we got to get a show in. I wouldn't even be wearing pants. So I mean, like that. Maybe it's because I come from radio, but it's just so weird that people are like, why aren't you wearing White Sox stuff? And you know, just to take you through my day today, just so you understand. One, I don't think wearing this shirt all of a sudden makes my opinion worth more or makes me more of a fan. So I think that's why I find it weird. But like, here's what my day was today. Like, I'm running a whole podcast network. Like, this is what I do for a living. This show was like for fun, and then it just blew up into something. And so it's just part of the network. But I mean, every other show I do is for like different communities. I do podcast production for all these different companies. Like this is what I do. So I got up today and I had to interview a guy from a chamber of commerce in Evergreen Park. And then after that, I had a client come over who's been with me for several years, who runs a professional organizing business. And she has a podcast called Your Organized Life. She recorded her weekly show. And then after that, I did a little bit of production and I had to run to the bank and make some payments. And then I got in the car and I drove to Lamont and I did a Lamont Unlocked in a flower shop today. And then I came back here to do the show and I had to change my outfit. So maybe sometimes I'm like not in the White Sox thing because like, it's not the only thing I'm doing.
Well, that's just it. I mean, a lot of the shows that before I was in the hospital, a lot of the shows I was doing, I was in the middle of my work day. So I was dressed for work.
Right. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those of you who think that I need to wear more White Sox stuff. I will start like a meathead wearing a jersey every day if that's what you need. If that's what you need to prove my fandom, I'll wear a jersey on the show.
And look, I'm with you too. I've got, you know.
Oh, look at you. We didn't even coordinate this.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, look at this. Yeah, we didn't even coordinate this. You probably didn't even look at the comments. It started off with like one guy. And then, and who knows, maybe the other people like jumped in because I made fun of it. I wrote back. I'm like, I didn't know there was a uniform for the show. And then everybody started doing it. So maybe it was like one of those things like, oh, we got under Chris's skin. So then like some other people made comments like, you should wear more White Sox stuff. So I've got it on today just to make everybody happy. Next show, I'm going to do it without any pants on just to prove my point.
Well, let's keep the camera from the waist up though.
I'm going waist down. You're not even going to see me. I'm going to shoot it from waist down. That's the plan. That's the plan. All right.
All righty.
The White Sox currently have a record that you wouldn't write home about, but it's a record that I don't think is as bad as it looks on paper. I'm trying to stay as positive as I possibly can here on Sox in the Basement, brought to you by Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. Switch to a new age of life with Hyatt Home Medical Equipment. They help keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa out of assisted living. Make it so they can get around on their own and live independently with stair lifts, ramps, grab bars, lift chairs, bathroom remodeling. Like they'll set up the bathtub so they just kind of walk in. It's like level with the floor. Get in there. There's things to hold on to. There's places to sit down. You know, the whole idea is to make sure you don't have to put somebody into assisted living. They can stay in the home that they have been in. And if you have an injury, if you yourself, you know, you're going to have some problems for a little while. You're getting over something. They have the little stuff, the big stuff, whatever you need to make your life easier. They work with insurance. They have 0% financing for qualified individuals. They have a big, beautiful showroom in Evergreen Park. Check out everything they have to offer at Hyatt Home Medical Equipment at hhme.com. But this record right now, they're 6 under. And remember, they started the season at 1-5. So every time I talk about the record, I always go, okay, you had a bad first 6 days. But what have you done? What have you done since then? And when I look at this record of 8-14, I say, okay, well, I got 2 blown saves by Sir Anthony Dominguez so far in this very early season. We're a month in. 2 blown saves so far from the closer that you're spending $20 million over 2 years with. And you put an option on there too. You put an option year on there. You were so convinced that a guy who's never been a closer except for a couple of times, but was really a setup man, could be a closer. A team that never spends money spent it on this guy. And you look silly right now because it's always a struggle with him. But if you take away the 2 blown saves, well, now instead of 8-14, you're 10-12. And then you got, I think, 4 games so far that you've played where you scored 2 runs or less. Several of them where you got blanked. And if you just had any kind of offense with some of the starting pitching you've been getting, and you win just one of those, you're an 11-11 500 team. That's how the math works on this whole thing. So the 2 biggest problems the team has is the reason why they're 8-14 and not 11-11. That's it. That's the razor thin difference. It's the same thing that you always hear, Ed. Like, hey, if a guy goes out there and gets a hit 3 out of 10 times in the Hall of Fame, if he does it for his career, if it's 2 out of 10 times, he shouldn't even be in baseball. Unless he's on the White Sox. We got a couple guys that can't even do 2 out of 10. But that's how close this is. And I think the first thing, besides the offense, we've gotten in on the offense. We'll talk a little bit about the offense on today's show. But my first problem is Sir Anthony Dominguez. I just don't. I know what they're going to do. They're going to stick with him because they spent all this money on him. But I think it should be closer by committee at this point. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, ride the hot hand, figure out if somebody else can close. I mean, we've seen Jordan Leisure in the role, and he didn't exactly grab onto it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been paying Dominguez. Leisure would have walked into the season that way. Grant Taylor probably takes that role at some point, but I think they want to make him a starter. So I don't know if they hand the reins of the 9th inning to him exclusively. But
by committee, he could be a guy that you use.
But by committee, he could absolutely come in and close a game or 2. And same thing with Leisure, and same thing with Newcomb, same thing with anybody really who's pitching well. Lucas Sims has his history of closing. If he gets hot, have him close some games. And you can use Dominguez in high leverage situations still if you need to. He did do well in that role, as a setup guy with the Blue Jays and as a setup guy with Philly, but he never put it together as a closer.
Here's the thing.
Don't have it.
Can I go through his games? I just want to go through his games so I can make a point about them. Yeah. Because, I mean, just so I'm not like anecdotally saying, oh, he sucks, right? I mean, let's just kind of go through it because this is your closer right now that you gave all this money to. And I think that they have egg on their face right now with him. And I'm sure they're very hopeful that he turns it around. But on the 28th of March is his first appearance, and it may be his best appearance. He pitches an inning and he gives up a hit. It's like, okay, look at that. Pitched an inning, gave up a hit. Wasn't a save situation, but it was relatively clean. And then on the 29th, he's got Milwaukee again, and now we start to see what he is. It's a blown save. He gets a save opportunity. He only logs 1/3 of an inning because he's only able to get 1 out. He lets 2 earned runs score. There's a home run in there and a walk. So he has 2 hits and a walk. So 3 guys get on base. And there's a home run in there. Gives up 2 earned runs. When he moves on to April 3rd, he gets an inning and a third in his next appearance against Toronto. Remember, they win every game in this series. But he gives up an unearned run. That's not on him. He was relatively clean in that one. Okay, not a save situation though. See, it's interesting when you look at his save situations. He is a setup man. He's a very effective setup man. Now he gets on a run where you start saying, okay, maybe he's the closer. He gets 3 save opportunities in a row, 1 against Toronto and the 2 wins against Kansas City. And he converts all 3 of them. And you go, okay, little shaky, but maybe he's got it. But in those 3 games, he walks a guy in the first one. In the next one, he issues a walk. So there's always a guy on base. Always a guy on base. And there's a walk and a hit in one of them as well, where he puts 2 guys on in the same inning. That's not... If you're a closer, you're looking for that guy to keep things clean. You're looking for that guy to keep guys off base, but he gets 3 saves and you go, okay, he might be a little shaky, but he can get the job done. And then he goes right out on the 16th of April against Tampa Bay with a save opportunity, 1/3 of an inning, 2 hits and a walk, 3 earned runs, a home run in there as well. Oh, and he hit a batter too. 4 guys reached base in that inning with the home run that gives him 3 earned runs. And that's his second blown save. At that point, he has had 5 save opportunities and converted on 3 of them. Now we get this series against the A's. These are his last two appearances. We have a guy that put 3 guys on base in the game on the 18th of April, but survived, not a save opportunity. Then he gets a save opportunity and converts on the 19th, 1 inning pitched, had a hit batter and a walk. What I see when I look at his game log, more often than not, it's more than 1 base runner over just that 1 inning, which it makes sense because his whip is near 2. But he's putting guys on base, which is something you don't want your closer to do. And he's giving an opportunity to a team and giving them hope as they try to come back in the game. And twice they've already broken through. I don't think that's $10 million a year for 2 years closer. And I don't think that's what you want. I mean, look, CBS Sportsline did a big list of all the bullpens that might be in flux because there's shaky guys at the back end of a lot of different bullpens right now. A lot of teams have this problem. But when they did the write-up on the White Sox, they're sure to explain Grant Taylor could do it. Jordan Leisure could do it. But in the write-up, they go, the Chicago White Sox actually ponied up for Dominguez this offseason, agreeing to pay him $20 million over the next 2 years. And that's such an uncommon investment for the White Sox that you have to figure he'll get a considerable leash. The write-up is literally, this guy probably shouldn't be the closer, but this team is probably sticking with him because of the money that they invested in him. And I think this will be the common theme all year long with this team. Guys who they've either anointed or they've spent money on getting way too much runway when you and I and every fan out there can see that's probably not the role they should be in, or maybe that guy shouldn't be starting every day, or maybe that guy shouldn't actually be playing on this team. And I think we're going to see several guys all year long where we're going to be yelling about it and they don't want to make the move for those kind of reasons.
Yeah, well, exactly. And Dominguez's numbers are ugly.
Ugly.
And when you watch him pitch, it's ugly because he's got no control. I mean, the stuff I can see the stuff when I watch him pitch, but 2 hit batters, it tells you, and all the walks tells you all you need to know. And then it's with control with a pitcher, it's not just walking somebody, not just hitting guys. It's also how often do you leave it out over the middle of the plate when you don't intend to, right? That leads to home runs. That leads to hard hit balls. And that's the problem with Dominguez. The ball, he doesn't have any idea where the ball is going. So he has been anointed. He is going to get an awfully big leash, the way Miguel Vargas is going to get a big leash because he was a big trade acquisition. The way Acuna is going to get a big leash because he was a big trade acquisition. The way Andrew Benintendi is going to be run out there as a DH very, very often because they're paying him $15 million and they can barely play him in the outfield. And some guys are going to be okay with that. I mean, they anointed Colson Montgomery. He is not hitting well from an average standpoint, but the power is still there. He is striking out way too much, but there's always a chance that he can actually start turning something around. Murakami, first of all, holy smokes, when he gets hot. When he gets hot, balls go flying out of the ballpark. I mean, it's amazing. But I think he'll still adjust, and you'll see him put more balls in play. You'll start seeing him hit doubles and singles, and he won't just be a 3 true outcomes type of player. But other than that, and Chase Bydroth, I think, is earning it. He's been solid, not spectacular, but I think he's been solid.
Yeah, but his last week or so, he's hitting the ball.
That's what I mean. He might be a little up and down like everybody is, but I think generally speaking, he's a good player. I don't think we're going to have too many complaints about him throughout the season. But you're not going to get very far though if you've got guys like Dominguez just absolutely failing, or when you bring up Sam Antonacci, who is a popular name and a hot name, and you kind of think, all right, we're bringing him up almost as fan service, and immediately he looks overmatched out there. It's bad, and they're clinging to guys like Tristan Peters, who they traded for. And there's just some mess out there. I think when Austin Hayes comes back from injury, he'll be fine. I'm starting to like Everson Pereira.
How can you not like him? He's the only guy who can hit. He's hitting almost 300. He's the only guy who can hit. He's got power. He can hit. He seems to play defense fairly well. He's the
only complete player they have on the team.
Right, in a month he'll be hitting 212, but right now, how could you, I'm a White Sox fan. Who knows what this guy will eventually be? But right now I'm kind of enjoying it.
That's the thing though. I'm not entirely convinced he is going to drop back to 212. I don't think he'll hit 300 for the year, but he looks like a guy that is perfectly capable of putting up 275 and hitting a bunch of home runs.
That would be a find.
And yeah, defense.
That's a
Defense
fine.
is never his problem.
I mean, that's the thing.
fine.
Like if you go out and you get the Tristan Peters of the world and the Everson Pereiras and the Luis Angel Acuñas, and one of them works out. 3 guys that other organizations said not good enough to keep on our team or good enough to move for something little because we just don't have room for them or we don't think they're good enough to make our roster. And you're like, well, these are guys that are right on the cusp. Maybe they'll take that next step. None of that is guaranteed. If you get one of those guys to turn into something, then I'm okay accepting that the other guys didn't work out as long as you're okay with it and willing to move on from them. One of the conversations that I'm sure is being had right now, pregame and postgame at Cork and Carry at the Park at 33rd and Princeton in the shadow of the ballpark, the home of Sox in the Basement, and also the home of award-winning burgers and ballpark favorites, an extensive bar with a rotation of craft beers, familiar favorites, spirits, and wines. Cork and Carry at the Park is your home base for White Sox pregame, postgame, and viewing parties. Again, 33rd and Princeton, one of the places that we've been starting to do some interviews over at the bar. I'm working on a few more of them here for the season, kind of going back and forth, but I am looking forward to getting back out there, and it's the place I go. I don't go to a ball game without stopping in at the Cork because the staff gets the food out, it's good, it's at a good price, and I know I'm going to be able to eat. I can bring the kids there, and then I can say, okay, time to go into the ballpark now. It is part of my tradition going to the ballpark. It should be part of yours. See more at corkandcarry.com. You mentioned all the hitters on this team, but before we move on to them, just a note about the pitchers. The thing that bothers me most about Dominguez is that a manager with this starting staff and with the guys that are being discovered as generally consistent in the bullpen should be able to win games in which you have a lead, should be able to hold on to it, should be able to keep games close if he's managing correctly. Because you're starting pitching right now. Davis Martin's going 7 innings at this point. And eventually you're going to start seeing him going complete. First he'll get to 8, and then he's going to be a complete game kind of guy. He's a stopper right now. Things start falling apart, and here comes Davis Martin going out and throwing a gem. His whip's a 1 as a starter. That's really good. He's got 4 starts. He's 3-1 with a 2.16 earned run average, and he's thrown 25 innings over those 4 starts. That's so solid. And he's striking out 19 to 6 walks being issued. And then you have Noah Schultz. I see his second start. Butterflies are gone now. He's a stud. And I loved what Caro did with his first strikeout in Oakland, challenging the really close one. I know Edgar Caro is been told he's wrong more than any other person that's challenged. He's had more, nope, you're wrong, Edgar, than anybody else in Major League Baseball at this point because he challenges everything. But that was great that he did that because that kid gets the first strikeout and then it was like, ooh, it's on. Great challenge there for his confidence. He goes out and pitches really well. It's going to take a while for him to be a guy who's going to pitch 6-7 innings. I don't know if that's even like in their plans because they'd like to have him out there all year long. But that's a star in the making and he can really throw it. And he's pitching very well. And you saw him in counts learning. Like, okay, I tried to blow up by this guy the first time he was up. Second time up, I'm going to throw an off-speed pitch, and I'm going to get him all tied up. And then you would see him do it. Eric Fetty's doing exactly what a third starter should do. He's got an ERA in the 3s. He goes out there and keeps guys off base, 1.11 whip, and he gives you some innings. And then Anthony Kay and Sean Burke have been serviceable. The whip's still below 1.30. They're not perfect. Burke's ERA is a little high. Kay doesn't pitch as many innings as you'd like him to. But these guys, I don't know if long-term these guys are in your rotation. I really don't. Especially with all the talent that's going to eventually get here. Okay, with the Hagen Smiths and the Tanner McDougals. And again, Drew Thorpe eventually getting here and joining this team. And Noah Schultz pitching well. And you never know if Shane Smith's going to make his way back here to the majors. So I'm happy with the starters. And I'm happy with the fact you found a couple of pitchers on this team. Jordan Leisure isn't perfect, but he's pitching well. Sean Newcomb and Brian Hudson over the last 15 days, I looked it up, they're pitching very well. And again, you got Grant Taylor, who kind of had it last time out, wasn't perfect out there, but overall, we got a relief pitcher with a solid whip who goes out there and gets the job done. And without him opening some of these games, I don't know if you get on a roll with this starting staff. There's pitchers there. The problem is, then you hand it over to Sir Anthony, and you grab onto your seat, you pray. And at some point, you would hope the manager would say, I'm not doing this. And you would hope that the front office isn't going to say, you have to because of what we spent on him. And I think that's one of the things you got to watch for here in the next couple of weeks. Because I think he's done enough that a manager could be, you know what, sit down, Sir Anthony, or he was a little tired, or we decided to give him a day off, or we like the matchup with so-and-so. I'm looking for that now from this team.
Yeah, that's probably the next step is giving him a break if he struggles even more. And it's one of those where you kind of hope that somebody emerges and somebody is just sitting there and takes the reins and becomes. I think they like using Grant Taylor as that sort of Swiss Army knife opener, high leverage guy, but maybe Jordan Leisure gets hot again and does it. Maybe it's Brian Hudson. Who knows? Lucas Sims. Who knows? There's a lot of opportunities there. The one thing with Noah Schultz that I have a slight concern about is pitch count, because there's moments there where it looks like he has a hard time putting guys away. He's not getting his slider in a good spot, which was his wipeout pitch in the minors. And he a little Dylan Cease in him where, some of the innings are clean innings, but they take a lot of effort. And I know he's going to be on a pitch count there. So I wonder if from an inning standpoint, it's going to depend on whether or not he can figure out a way to put major league hitters down once he gets them 0-2, or at least, have more innings where he's allowing them contact because he's so hard to square up. You see it where he could throw a fastball in a really hittable spot, but guys, and it's the A's, so take it for what you will, but they're not a terrible team. The A's players were, popping it up and hitting lazy fly balls because they're just off on them. They're not picking it up. That's
something we saw with Cease for a season, and then it reverted back to he had a great game, but he only pitched 5 innings, and we used to yell about that because there was a period of time where he was pitching the contact, and you hope that the first thing is we just want him to get some confidence that he can blow it by guys. But eventually, if you got a good pitching coach, if they're doing the right things, the White Sox, they have to teach him how to go deeper into games. And they have to teach him when the right situation is to pitch to contact and give the guy something that's going to be very hard for him to square up and hit 110 miles per hour, and instead be something that kind of goes off the end of the bat or pops up in the infield. But that's a skill. That goes back to the difference between throwing and pitching, which is something we've talked about a few times here the last couple of episodes. I would think that that's almost like one of the last things, though, that a pitcher learns, unless they're so refined when they get here. And you're right. I don't think that's what he is yet. I was looking at the lineup to get back to the hitters, and I was curious what your thoughts were on this. I look at this lineup right now, and I go, man, if I believe the first month, and in some cases with guys like Miguel Vargas, I believe what I've seen since they've gotten here, right? And I believe in the results that I've seen so far. What kind of team do I have here? Where do I find my hitters? Pereira, if I believe it, is a good hitter. I would, and Murakami, I'm seeing people now all of a sudden saying like this could be Kyle Schwarber. And it could be. I don't know. We'll see. But he's a hell of a hitter. My biggest fear is I'm going to wake up one morning and be like, we traded him for a bunch of prospects because he had control for a year and a half more. And I am just going to scream for like 5 or 6 shows in a row if that happens. All right. Colson Montgomery, you're right. Strikes out way too much. Has a little bit of power, though. The OPS is still 771. That's usable, at least. It's a major league hitter. Chase Mydroth over the last week is hitting the ball. Other than that, I'm hard-pressed to find hitters. Like you see people that sit around and say, why are you picking on Miguel Vargas, but they'll openly pick on Andrew Benintendi. Well, Benintendi's hitting 197 with an OPS in the 600s. Miguel Vargas hitting 173 with an OPS in the 600s. Pretty much the same thing at the plate right now. And again, Vargas is a streaky guy, but you're going to get these months where he's like that. And I don't know if that's sustainable for when you want to get to the next level as a team. So just looking at the guys you have, if I honestly believe right now, unless somebody can prove me wrong who's not hitting the ball right now, you got like 4 hitters on this team. Everything else is a hodgepodge of crap until they figure it out. I got 4 hitters on this team. But I also have Kyle Teal coming back. But I also have another guy that hopefully doesn't fall on his face when he gets here like Antonacci just did in Bergola. You could move Montgomery over to third and bring him up to short. We've seen listeners make that suggestion. If I got Pereira in the outfield and Hayes comes back from his injury, where's the other outfielder coming from? Well, eventually it might be Braden Montgomery, who's tearing it up right now. And it's funny to me that they still have him sitting in Double-A, but we've had guys on this show, prospect guys, future Sox guys, just baseball guys like Elijah Evans. And it's been suggested, well, it's a bandbox in Charlotte anyway. So how much time would he really need in Charlotte if they think he's ready to come up? So, I mean, I don't know. I think you can still find 9 guys here, even though only 4 of them seem to be in the lineup at this time. I really do. And I think the whole thing is, again, goes back to what I already mentioned in the show, Ed. I believe that the biggest problem for fans over the next couple of months is going to be a front office too afraid to say this guy didn't work out, or this guy doesn't deserve any more opportunities. He's had enough at bats. And at some point, they're going to have to do that with some guys, right? Like, I would not be opposed to Kyle Teal coming back and them saying, Edgar, go down to AAA and figure it out. I would not be opposed to the idea of Miguel Vargas not working out. You know, I think most of us can agree that Andrew Benintendi, not what you're paying for, but you're going to have a really hard time justifying it to the owner who hates paying a guy to go home. But when will that start happening? And I think if you're looking for the points of frustration amongst the fan base, it's going to be those things not getting done, even though we know that player may not be working out, or it may be time to give somebody else another opportunity. And I go back to the record. You're currently 6 games under 500. But if your closer that you brought in for a bunch of money, that really wasn't a closer till you brought him here, didn't blow those 2 saves, and you were able to find just a smidge more offense to score a run or 2 extra in just one of the games that were really close, where you lost 2-0 or 2-1 against Baltimore or against Kansas City, you're a 500 team. And you're going to see this team have a poor record. And as fans, you're going to be like, this could be better if they could just bite the bullet and admit that they were wrong about somebody or hold somebody accountable. And I think that's going to be the one thing. Like, fans might yell about the idea, I don't like this player, or I don't like this move made by the manager, or whatever. But I think the thing I'm seeing in listener comments, the most that I'm seeing, the biggest complaint I'm seeing from White Sox fans is they're waiting for accountability. And the question becomes, is it too early, Ed, to want to hold guys accountable because it's only April 21st?
It's never too early for accountability, but it's the selective accountability that's going to drive us nuts, because it's too early for Andrew Benintendi and Miguel Vargas. It's too early for Luis Angel Acuna. Apparently it wasn't too early for Dustin Harris. It wasn't too early. It's, how early is it going to be for Tanner Murray or Sam Antonacci, who can be sent back down if they're not playing well? How early is it? It's not going to be too early for some of the guys that they bring up. I mean, if they bring up Bergola and he doesn't hit right away, it's not too early to make a snap decision about him or snap judgment. Same thing with Braden Montgomery if he were to struggle. But the problem is that they're not going to hold accountable some of the guys that we want held accountable. And we've seen Andrew Benintendi. We know that he is now, thanks to chronic leg injury, limited to being a DH. He's not hitting well, and it's his one job, right? At least with Miguel Vargas, you can sit there and say, yeah, he's played a pretty decent third base this year. He's walked almost as much as he struck out. That's something. He's contributed a couple of home runs. Benintendi's got 1 to Vargas's 3. And it'll drive you nuts. If this team had even 7 or 8 guys in the lineup, you might be able to get away with, say, giving Acuna the runway that Chris Getz wants to give him because he was the trade acquisition for Luis Robert Jr. You might be able to hide Miguel Vargas. You might be able to hide Andrew Benintendi. But the problem is that you've got 4, 5 of them at any given time, depending on what the lineup is. And I'm including guys like Antonacci. I'm including the Tanner Murrays of the world. Edgar Caro and Reese McGuire are combining to be a kind of a bag of nothing.
It flies in the face of, we are trying to win more. because you can't win more and then say we're going to throw games because we're going to give 6 guys runway, because that's what you're doing.
Right.
I mean, it's one or the other. You could sit there and say from a PR standpoint, come out to the ballpark because we're trying to win, but your actions don't show that you're trying to win if everybody gets runway, you know? But then again, that was what it was like in the offseason. You know, you still have a ridiculously low payroll from a cheap owner. And if you could have just added another bat or two to this thing, and then you'd be like, earn your way on. And there would be only 1 or 2 spots for these guys to earn their way on. And if they didn't work out over the course of 2-3 weeks, they would use an option, send that guy down and bring up a new guy. But that's not what they have going on for them right now. So, I mean, it's the message is we're trying to win. If you're trying to win, then it's time to say, nope, you're not good enough. Nope, you need to move back. Nope, you're a reserve now. Nope, you're going down to work it out in AAA. That would be happening more often. And the problem is there are guys that are written in pencil, and then there are guys that are written in pen. Some of the guys written in pen right now they're not worthy of it. But they're guys that for some reason they've fallen in love with. And I think that'll be the most maddening thing all season long, Ed. Most maddening thing all season long is watching a guy who's written in pen that should be written in pencil.
Yeah, or it should be erased entirely, you know? And that's what
they should have. They should have a big giant eraser that comes out and pushes them off the field. I would pay more money. I would go to more ball games if there was the possibility after a guy went 0 for 4 and he had been bad for about 3 weeks that a big giant eraser mascot comes out and pushes him towards the dugout. You know that he's been released.
Well, even if it's southpaw with like a big pencil with just the eraser
giant
side.
eraser. Bring that to the ballpark. Somebody get Brooks Boyer on the phone.
Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement. Sox in the basement.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.